to talk a little bit about what this bill will accomplish, what it won't accomplish, and suggest a few ways the language can be tightened up a little to target its purpose a little better. The main benefit of requiring that the software for a ballot counting machine be published is that it heads off one major corruption threat. It makes it impossible for any vendor to hide either malicious or poorly written software in the machine that can produce incorrect results, possibly very infrequently under unusual circumstances. The main benefit of open source software as it's traditionally practiced is to expose it to many eyes so people with a variety of experience can study the source code, find errors in it, and get those errors corrected. Well, we have something a little bit unusual in voting systems that leads me to question whether conventional open source software is really what we want. Publishing the software is only one of the steps necessary to get it to operate properly. The other requirement is that it actually be studied thoroughly in detail and proven correct. Now, certain industries that produce safety critical products, in particular the aviation industry that produces flight controls for airplanes, have very, very rigorous procedures for designing software that meets its requirements and then proving in a very formal and thorough manner that that software is correct and has no errors in it that are going to rise up someday and bite you. And I think we can argue that software that counts ballots is safety critical. It's necessary for the safety of the republic. So therefore I suggest that a bill to require software with integrity in voting systems should require that it actually be written according to a disciplined procedure that produces correct software, is actually verified as being correct, and that the proof of correctness be part of the public record. When I testified a year and a half ago to the subcommittee on e-voting, I handed in some suggested language that amounts to a checklist of all of the things that would need to be covered to make sure that the whole machine functions correctly. Now, a lot of that dealt with the hardware functioning correctly, and is outside the scope of today's bill. I have a half a dozen copies of that that I can hand around, and that can be used for a source of ideas for typing this up. But basically, what I would suggest is that the language in this bill should say more than that software be open source, that it be verified according to one of the well-established professional procedures as being correct in fact, and that be required before it can actually be used in a voting system. Now, a couple of the previous speakers have pointed out that software of that kind doesn't previously exist. I suggest that it's not going to exist unless some legislature, such as this one, makes it mandatory and holds the industry's feet to the fire so that they do create it, or else simply commission it as a state project. And that would cost money, not a huge amount of money, but that's one way of getting past this logjam of suitable open source software not existing, and get us into a situation where we begin to put the openness and verifiability that's central to New Hampshire's election law into the process of counting ballots by a machine. Those are my major points. Would anyone like to ask questions?
Any questions? Yes, Representative Perry.
May I have a copy of your checklist?
Sure. I have half a dozen others if anybody wants it. Oh, sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Carroll? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on HB 105.